Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchoni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat services here at Central Synagogue. I am Rabbi Dan Ross, joined on the bima this evening by Cantor Dan Mutlu, joined via Zoom by Rabbi Sarah Berman, and joined for the first time on our bima this evening by our new rabbinic intern, Chelsea Fuchs. I know that everyone is waving hi to Chelsea out there in TV virtual land, so welcome, welcome. So excited to have you here this evening. And we are all, speaking of new, we are also delighted to welcome several of our new members of Central Synagogue, our Central Synagogue family, who are joining us in our virtual pews. Good to see all of you as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you may be aware, there's a secular holiday tomorrow of pretty great importance, though maybe a little bit less special this year because we've been wearing masks all the time right now. In the business, we call this Shabbat Halloween. And while I make light of this occasion, I do want to point out that it is appropriate that we should be celebrating, observing Halloween this week. Because right now, a lot of us are feeling scared. And not just because of ghosts and ghouls, or as you might have heard it called on local news, spooky season. We're scared because these are uncertain times. We're afraid that our basic rights are at risk. We're fearful for what the future holds. Which is why it's especially comforting to come together for Shabbat this evening. Because while our secular holidays surely make us smile even beneath our masks, the sacred occasions of Jewish time always begin with our coming together to light candles. And what we need when we're scared more than anything else is to be with each other and a little bit of light. And so to help bring us that light this evening, we're so lucky to be joined by two of our students who are becoming B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow morning, Natalie Brenner and Evan Contant. We say hello to you and to your families. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom. Wave to everybody. Oh, look at those candles. So excited for you. Mazel Tov. We can't wait to see you bright and early tomorrow morning to celebrate. And at this time, I'm going to ask that you light the Shabbat candles while Cantor Mutlu chants the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. We can't wait to see you tomorrow morning to celebrate. Thank you for bringing that light into our lives this evening. We continue with the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat beginning on page 4.
L'chu l'ranena l'Adonai Nahariya l'tzur isheinu from mountain to sea, hear our song. There listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. I will sing unto God a new song. It's now time to welcome Shabbat officially with Lecha Dodi. You can find those words on page 20. We'll sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, rising on the last verse to welcome Shabbat, and maybe you'll open a door to your room or to your house or to your apartment to let the Shabbat bride in. Ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 penei Shabbat, ay, 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 nekabela, ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 penei Shabbat, ay, 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 nekabela, shamu b'zachu b'dibur echad, tishbiyanu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem tiferet v'letfilah. Ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 nenei Shabbat, ay, 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 nekabela, likrat Shabbat lechu b'nechad, ki b'kol avlecha, b'rosh mikeder b'sucha, aseh b'machshavat tchila, ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 penei Shabbat, ay, 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 nekabela, hitoreni, hitoreni, ki ba'olech, kumi huri, 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 shitaveri, k'vod Adonai, alayich nigla, ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 penei Shabbat, ay, 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 nekabela. Boi beshalom, ateret ba'ala, gam besimcha uv'zola, toch emunei ha-segula, boi chala, boi chala. Ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 penei Shabbat, ay, 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 nekabela, ay, 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 lecha dodi, ay, 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 likrat kala, ay, 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 penei Shabbat, ay, 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 nekabela. We remain standing now for our call to worship, Baruch Hu, on page 146. Ya la 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 la, ya la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la la ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai, המבורך Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la.
Please be seated. We turn now to our evening prayer, Ma'ariv Aravim. We mark this moment of transition with the words on page 31. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Baruch atah Adonai Hamari Aravi.
Ahavat Olam, everlasting love, God bestowed upon us. The God of this prayer loves me, loves you, loves this community in such a way that it fills our days and nights, that we are aware of it when we lie down and when we rise up, that we never want it to be removed and cannot imagine life without it. What would it look like to emulate God in this way? To love one another so fully that it felt all-encompassing. At a moment when some people fear they may be harmed because of who they love, can we communicate to our brothers, our cousins, our friends, that we love them no matter what? We are all blessed with everlasting love. Let us each be filled up by that love and pass it on to others.
Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. If you're still standing and we forgot to tell you to please be seated, you can be seated at this time, and we're going to turn to page 152 for our Song of Freedom. You my strength, and you are my song. You have become my liberation. La 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 la, la 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 la, 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 la 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 la.
This Tuesday, we marked the 2-year anniversary of the Tree of Life synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh. The Shabbat after this tragedy, Jewish communities around the country and around the world joined together for Solidarity Shabbat. We mourned for the 11 victims, their families, and friends. We also grieved the diminishment of our sense of safety. And so we prayed more earnestly for God's protection, that each and every person should be sheltered from harm, that each and every life should be valued. On Solidarity Shabbat, many added this poem before Hashkivenu, and we read it again tonight. I imagine your presence as the gracious, majestic, rich green canopy of a tree, stretching outward, upward, with me nestled quietly against the sturdy trunk. Keep me dry from the rains of sadness. Save me from the cold winds of doubt. Protect me from the darkness of the unknown, so that I may rise and venture forth and touch your world. Be the presence I feel, your canopy over me, under me, surrounding me, sheltering me with peace.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, Hamidenu Malkeinu Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, from sorrow and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom. Hamidenu Malkeinu Our Amidah, we rise for our standing prayer, our Amidah, and you can find those words on page 155. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Oh, Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Oh, Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Limoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Ve'Norah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי מתים מטרה להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Before we turn to our silent prayer, I want to acknowledge that we are in a precarious moment, poised between the certainties of the past and the unknowns of the future. This is definitely true of the flow of this pandemic, and it's equally true of our current political moment. With this week's Supreme Court confirmation process and next week's national election, we are all feeling a certain level of upheaval. We feel this way because we care deeply about the present and the future of these United States. In the spirit of our deep engagement and commitment to our country, let us offer this blessing based on the words of Rabbi David Seidenberg, our prayer book, Mishkan Tefillah, and Rabbi Andrea Weiss's American Values Religious Voices Project. A prayer for our country. Every inch of America is sacred, from sea to shining sea. There is much to be done in our time, the sort of hard work on which God smiles because it is done for the sake of the dignity and well-being of all God's creatures. Together, let us work to preserve and make manifest the values upon which our democracy was founded. Individually and as a nation, may we heed our obligations to each other as we navigate the tensions of building a just society. Rather than a politics of divisiveness, may we move our country toward a politics of empathy. May our leaders govern with wisdom and forbearance, our judges discern with justice and compassion. May God give a listening heart to whomever we elect, and may it be good in God's eyes to raise for us a nation that brings healing, justice, and peace. May we use our power well, so we do great things for all God's creatures, all those made in God's image who yearn for an equal place at America's table. If we do all this, may grace and peace be ours in abundance. May we be a beacon and a blessing to the world. With that prayer in our heads and in our hearts, I invite you to join me in praying silently. You may stand or sit whenever it is right for you.
גשר צמאו והעיקר לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. כל העולם כולו שירה שקטה ומי ישמע ומי ישמע והעיקר לא יזכור את הלב. ביום אחד יבוא נשיר כולם ונצחק. ביום אחד יבוא נשיר כולם ונצחק. גשר צמאו all of the world is a very narrow bridge and the main thing is not to be afraid, not to be afraid at all. And the main thing is not to be afraid, not to be afraid at all.
The important thing is not to be afraid, but sometimes that can be so hard. In this moment between past and future, nothing is assured, which makes it even more important that we come together to help one another not be afraid. We come together to pray for health of mind, body, of spirit, of nation, and of globe. I invite you to call to mind those loved ones of yours who are in need of our prayers of healing this evening. If you are joining us on our Facebook chat, I invite you to share those names in the chat so that our whole community may be with you in these prayers. Tonight, the Central Synagogue community is thinking of Bess Adams, Barbara Aden, Kathy Barron, Jerry Calderon, Marcia Conescu, Elaine Derschlag, Marcia Firestone, Corey Flaum, Jerry Friedman, Ashley Goodman, Lila Grobman, Alan Helene, Jerry Kane, Marjorie Lentz, Michael Madden, Susan Lee Madden, Gregorio Podoroski, Barbara Reish, Leslie Rosenberg, Sandy Schuper, Hanoch Ben Shlomo, Marcia Snyder, Marvin Snyder, Clara Turkenix, Jane Vigon, Ann Yerman, and Pam Young. Join us now together in our prayer for healing, the words which can be found in your order of service.
Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap
just as we pray together to give one another strength, to not be afraid, to receive healing, we also celebrate together in the good and the great times. The tradition in our community is that we ask you to rise if something that I say applies to you, and to stay standing if you are able until we sing our Shehechianu prayer, our prayer of thanksgiving together. So I invite you, if you are becoming B'nai Mitzvah this weekend, or somebody that you love is, to please rise. If you are celebrating a new baby, a new spouse, a new home, or a new job, please rise. If you are one of our wonderful new members who we celebrated at an oneg, a preneg, before the service tonight, I invite you to rise and wave so that we can all say hello to you. If you are new to Central, I invite you to rise. We celebrate with you as well. If you are a parishioner or a member of the clergy from Heavenly Rest, one of our wonderful partners, I invite you to rise. If you have done your civic duty and voted early in person or by mail, I invite you to rise. If you, like me, are so thankful for the extra hour of sleep that we will get between Saturday evening and Sunday morning, please rise. And if you are living in this precarious moment with joy in your heart because we have finally reached another Shabbat together, I invite you to rise and we sing our prayer of thanksgiving, Shehechianu, together.
Dancing like Rabbi Ross, that was amazing. You can be seated now. So, back in the 60s, when my grandfather and uncle decided it was time to leave their home in Istanbul, Turkey, and head for America, they settled in Worcester, Massachusetts, but left behind my father, who was finishing up his mathematics studies at Istanbul University. And it wasn't easy for any of them to get over here, but particularly for my dad, there were many obstacles in the way of his ultimate immigration to the United States. And as it turned out, when he finally did come over to this country, my dad made a little bit of history. He was the first immigrant to receive a visa under a new U.S. immigration law in 1965, and thank God he did. In an article written in the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, James Rice, then United Highest Executive Director, said, "Mr. Mutlu would have faced a long waiting period before he could join his family. This is only one of the many injustices corrected by the new legislation." Whenever I meditate on the fact that my own parents are immigrants, that they left their homes for this strange new land, I feel immediately grateful. Grateful to all the people who worked so hard to make it possible for them to come here, and grateful for the hospitality and the help they received when they arrived. Coming to a strange place with a new language and different customs, it must have been so disorienting and scary. But I also think that the most difficult part of immigrating for any family must be the initial trauma of leaving one's home behind. the searing pain of leaving behind everything you know and all that you have ever known. In the Torah this week, we read that well-known account of God commanding Abram to leave his homeland and go to the place that God will show him. Lech lecha. And we know that words are at a premium in the Torah, and they're especially important at this moment that God asks Abram to go. God doesn't just say, "Hey, Abram, leave your home and follow me." Rather, in the Torah, God uses 3 different ideas to describe the place that Abram is leaving behind. God says, "Go from your land, from your birthplace, and from your father's house." These are all the things that home is for Abram. Home is his land, the land that he's worked on, stood on, slept on. Home is also his birthplace, the setting for his very first experiences and the place that would form his identity. And lastly, home is also his father's and mother's house. It's not just a random stop along the way, but a place that's connected in time generations before him. For Abram to listen to God's command now, to leave home, was to leave all of this behind. It must have been painful, scary, traumatic. And reading these words of Torah, it feels very much that God was aware of Abram's pain. Indeed, God was Abram's helper, promising him success from the beginning and accompanying him on the journey. Now, seeing our own parents as immigrants unquestionably makes us more empathetic to the hardships that displaced people face in reestablishing their sense of home. In our tradition, we are regularly called upon to remember that Abraham and Sarah were immigrants and fugitives, that they too left their land, their birthplace, their ancestors' house, that even they needed help making a new home in a strange place. Tonight, Central Synagogue, under Rabbi Hilly Haber's leadership, has teamed up with Emma's Torch, a restaurant and organization in Brooklyn that provides refugees with culinary training, ESL classes, and interview prep. And tonight, some of our congregants will be enjoying a Shabbat meal that has been prepared by the students of Emma's Torch, people who have come to New York seeking asylum and refuge from human trafficking, social, political, religious oppression. Emma's Torch trains and supports these people to work in the culinary world. But more than that, their goal is to begin to give back to these people what they lost, their sense of being at home in a community. If our Torah portion tonight teaches us that leaving home is one of the most painful and difficult things to do, and that those wanderers need God's help for the promise of a better future, then we must too be agents and helpers alongside God for those who have come to our country in search of a new home. My father loved to talk about the old life back in Turkey, and we would listen to his countless stories, and he would listen to Turkish radio every morning, singing the Turkish national anthem when it came on. And as a child, I often wondered why and how he still had so much affection and connection to all things Turkish. Much later, it hit me. Though his home was in Worcester, Massachusetts, United States, his birthplace, his land, his father's and mother's house was across the ocean. Finding a new home doesn't replace our previous identities. We take with us all of our experiences and knowledge of the places from which we came. When God tells Abram to go, God says, Lech lecha, which is hard to translate. It means go to yourself or go for yourself. This inward-looking command doesn't ask Abram to leave his identity behind. It doesn't ask him to forget all that made him who he was. Rather, God asks Abram to lean into himself, to find a new home that is an expression of his true self. And with help from God, Abram goes to that place. Let us continue to do this work for others as well, so that they can go for themselves too, so that they can look inward, so they can find home again. Lechi lach to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. Lechi lach, lechi lach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi lach, on your journey I shall bless you. Lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lechi lach. And you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. We continue now with concluding prayers, Aleinu L'Shabeach, on page 282, and you may rise again at this time. Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol, L'Atei Tidula L'Yotzei Breshit, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Our thoughts now turn to those dear ones who are no longer with us in body, but who are eternally with us in spirit. Central Synagogue community is mourning the passing in recent days of Adele Astian, mother of Donna, Dan Baum, son of Cy and stepson of Judith, Mary Elizabeth Drabkin, aunt of Elizabeth Bacon, Mark Epstein, brother of Rhonda, Diane Kovacs, mother of David and Lawrence, sister of Gail Schneider, Natalie Cooper Rosenthal, mother of Evelyn, Elizabeth, Nancy, and David, wife of Sydney, Lillian Siegel, mother of Susan Dorn, Jerry, and Robert, Mickey Soffer, great aunt of Carol Ostro, and Joan Wernick, mother of Gail. At Central Synagogue, we name as our own those members of the American Armed Forces who perished in the past week, and we are grateful to report that there have been no deaths. There have, however, been the following who have died in mass shootings in America: Jonathan Pitts, Katrina Pitta, Justin Carlton Jones, Luis Manuel Hernandez, Andrew Gerardo Elizondo, and Michael Cooper. And we also offer our condolences to the family of Ethan Williams, 20 years old, who was killed by a stray bullet when he was visiting Brooklyn this past week. As Chelsea mentioned earlier this evening, we are observing the yard site of those who perished in the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue. We share those names now: Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. The Central Synagogue community is observing the yard sites of those dear to us: Jeffrey Allen Astor, Walter Astor, Madeline Baer, Philip Berman, Benjamin Birnbaum, Bernard Bring, Jack Brown, Lucille Kahn, Karen Chanowitz, Charles Cole, Robert Davidoff, Florence Ditzian, Benjamin Einhorn, Sadie Eisenstein, Mildred Fisher, Ida Gertz, Leonard Gold, Jerome Gottlieb, Jonathan Gray, Deborah Green, Helen Halperin, H. Herbert Harris, Alfred Hart, Ronald Hecker, Cynthia Heyer, Josephine Hirsch, Israel Ilan, Denise James, Lillian Clevens, Gordon Kuta, Irving Korn, Gail Lenvin, Robert Levy, Mo Lewis, Melvin Littman, Josephine Magliocco, Sydney Marcus, Esther Mifaloff, Teresa Mitchell, Max Mosner, Muriel Mutterpearl, Leon Nad, Harriet Pollock, Irving Reif, Coralie Richards, Alan Rossman, Harry Rother, Ellen Rubin, Carol Sarnoff, June Schechter, Ann Schoolman, Joseph Selman, Lee Silverstein, Marion Slade, Marv Smith, Melvin Smith, Sidney Snyder, Sadia Summers, Barbara Steinberg, Benjamin Swig, Joan Tisch, Yael Topper, Jess Unger, Samuel Vogel, Fred Wachtel, Maurice Weingold, Danny Zorn, and Mayor Zuckerman. At this time, if you are in a period of mourning, the period of Shiva, 7 days following the passing of someone dear to you, we invite you to rise. If you are in the period of Shloshim, the 30 days, we invite you to rise. If you're in the period of Shana, the first year, we invite you to rise. And if you are observing a yard site, we invite you to rise. We all rise together in body or spirit as we join together in the words of Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach yurteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chaye chon v'yom echon, v'chaye t'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam almei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei l'kudusha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechanata, damiran be'alma v'yiru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'ramav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
Oseh shalom b'ramav, huya
We are excited to be joined via Zoom by one of our confirmation students, Nate Russo, who will share some announcements with us this evening.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Nate Russo, and I am a student in this year's confirmation class at Central Synagogue. We are happy so many of you are joining us virtually and hope you will join us for future Shabbat services. As always, you can join us through our live stream, Facebook Live, YouTube channel, and JBS. To learn more about upcoming programming, please visit our website. Information about Shabbat morning worship can also be found on our website. Mazel Tov to our B'nai Mitzvah and their families, Natalie Brenner, Nico Fodor, Ethan Sadowitz, and Evan Contant. It is such a joy to see you taking your place in our community at Central, and we look forward to the time when you'll be in my place, making the announcements as confirmation students. Congratulations again. Please join us in the Kiddush, which can be found on page 5 of our prayer books.
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav beratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila le'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'chata me'otanu kinashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'beratzon Hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. We're playing zone defense, so you get the challah.
I didn't realize what end of the deal I was getting here. What
You
a
are,
small cup
and you get to
compared
take that
to-
home, exactly. I got the raw
There
end.
you go.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Delicious.
Peace will come. Let it begin with me. We need peace. Let it begin with me. Oh, my own life is all I can hope to control. Oh, let my life be lived for the good of my soul. Let it bring peace, sweet peace. Peace will come. Let it begin with me. Peace. Peace will come. Let it begin with me. We need peace. Let it begin with me. With me. With me. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.